Rest, reflect, and plan for the season ahead.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
So hopefully you've had a successful season, everything's flowed. Doesn't always happen like that though, does it? I think for a lot of people, like the idea is that you come to the end of the season and you kind of, you need to reflect on the results that you've had like through the year. Like generally, there'll be like peaks and troughs, you know, like in your training. Some things will have worked right, some things wouldn't have gone as well. You might have strengths and weaknesses that you know, like you ultimately you want to work on, and that can be very hard. You know, like with like multi-sport, you've got like 3 disciplines, then you chuck like strength and conditioning in there. It's almost like gives you monkey mind a little bit. The end of the season, like initially is, I'd always say to everybody, like ultimately you kind of need to step away from the sport, whether that's triathlon or cycling, running, you know, running, swimming, because then you need to kind of like get some downtime and like just get some mental capacity, so you've got that ability to then to be able to think about what you want to plan for the following season. And I think like ultimately, like when you come to like that stage is you've got to regroup. If you've got like a coach, it's a great time to kind of sit down and just say like what do you think went right, what do you think wrong, where do you think we need to work on, and how can we improve? Because if you've got those steps, then when it comes into the, you know, like you start to train again, you've got your initial baby steps to get you back on the road ultimately. So what I always do is I kind of review the season. And we actually can do this for you. We do like what we call like a performance review, that we can analyze like all your training. We can be very scientific with that. Or you can just, you know, like review like what went wrong, what went right, but then you've got to readdress that. So for me is I'll look at the season, and you can utilize like training peaks, and for most people that's got like the performance management chart, and you can actually see like where the peaks were throughout the year. And if you've had a successful like boost in form, then there's going to be a trend in that training. Then if you can reflect over like a few years, you might find that there's like this peak in like yeah, you know, like in terms of form that you get. So like CTL, it'll be a certain point, or you might have had a holiday or a break before it, and that's what you want to introduce then back into like the, you know, like the training for the following year, and kind of see where, you know, like what months that you went well, because sometimes that can lead to like success as well. But initially it's reviewing and then setting like 3 goals that you want to work towards like the following year, and that's how you're going to peak into the year. If you've got like those goals that you're working towards, then you need like steps to get towards them. And I think when you've got like multi-sport, it's like really hard to do because you've got like the 3 disciplines, haven't you? But initially I'd say that technique in all 3 is kind of like where you need to work on. Just, you know, like get that technique back. So if your swimming's not up to standard, then, you know, like go back to like the basics, review like your swim stroke, get an analysis, see what you're going to work on. For the cycling, for a lot of people, you might have had an injury or there's something you're not quite comfortable with. So getting like a bike, you know, like reviewing like your bike fit, and then working on specifics that are going to help improve that. So if you were lacking strength, for example, then like you could work on, you know, like strength training, pedal effectiveness, your aero specific drills that you might need to improve. And then the same for the run really, you know, like if you've got injured throughout the like the season, it might be that you need to do like more strength and conditioning. So it's kind of reviewing those. That's your initial phase of training, and then ultimately for a lot of people, it's just ramping training up progressively. You don't want to, like so many people get so keen at the start of the year, they're all guns blazing. They come to they get into the new year, and it's by February they're almost like burnt out. But I've generally found for a lot of athletes, if you kind of like ramp training up progressively, so if you were looking like training peaks, if we had like a CTL value, you could probably ramp for triathletes, you could probably ramp up like 3 to 4 points a week. For a cyclist, we'd probably ramp up like 2. If you're doing it like, it can be a lot harder with like perceived effort, but I'd say like in terms of volume, you're probably trying to increase it by 30 minutes to an hour like each week. But for everybody, there's going to be like a ceiling point in terms of like the amount of training that you can do. So what I would say, if you can only train like for 8 to 10 hours, don't use like that 8 to 10 hours straight away. You just want to go, right, I'll start at like 6, and then I'll get into the new year, then I'll progress up to like 8. And that's how you'll build like form. And then what will probably happen is you'll get to like February, you have a bit of a break. You might do a training camp in January. Then you have like this break, like refocus, and then you build to the next race, have a dip, the next race, have a dip, and then you finish the season on the high. But that's how you'd introduce like a successful training program. So one to think about for next year.